So having defined your universe, and there are other ways to define, is to say, okay, the company should have a 20-year dividend paying track record. Here what happens is you eliminate just very many companies which have fallen by the wayside. Every promoter you meet is very bullish about his company, right, or her company today, increasingly her company. They think they have got the next best idea and they are going to implement it, but there is a huge gap between having a good idea and actually implementing it. I know the case of a person who had invested in a company, a startup, where the CEO and the COO had a fallout. The COO went and joined a competitor and completely ruined this company, right? So suddenly these kind of things happen. That is the performance risk, implementation risk which is there. So you have to be extremely careful about when you're meeting promoters as to how much to believe and how much to see. Ultimately you have to have data, you have to have proof. So data gets time to get built up. So you're not a angel investor that you just keep investing without asking for questions. If you are a investor, and I'm only talking of how to build your portfolio in a large cap fund, in listed companies. I'm not talking of VC money and angel investment. In such cases you have to be very careful. So my rules are very different. Company should have a 20-year dividend paying record. In the last 5 years dividend should have increased. Now when you take a commodity company, this 20-year track record is very difficult to establish. You can still get it. In fact, I remember when I bought Coromandel International, company was not paying dividends. Company was in BIFR. It had just come out of BIFR, or things like that was happening. The Murugappa group had just taken over. I think it must be 1985, 86, 87. I'm not very sure. Right. So, but I still invested, saying, okay, let's see how the turnaround. Turnaround was good, and I made money. So some of the rules you will break, but largely for me, it has to be a longish dividend paying company. So company which has been paying for and last 5 years dividend should have gone up and that money, the dividends which have gone up should be out of a sustainable increase in EPS, not a PSU company where the government forces them to pay dividend even if they don't have the cash flow. That shouldn't happen, and that doesn't happen so much in the private sector, but it does happen even in the private sector. Recently Vedanta has been giving dividends which are very difficult to sustain, but they have been giving it for a long time, so you don't know. So what all would I look if I were building a portfolio of good dividend yield shares, right? Remember, I'm talking of building a portfolio which is going to help you for your retirement. It has to have a track record of good dividends. It has to have a track record of sustainable dividends. These dividends should be sustainable. It's a business which I should understand. It took me a long time to understand the Zomato business. I still haven't understood the Nykaa business. So I will not buy Nykaa. I bought Zomato. I understand the Indigo business. I know it takes a long time to build an airline, so I'm willing to stick to it. At least I understand the business. That is very important for me. Earnings growth over the last, I've always been saying 20 years, and definitely over the last 10 years, and increasing dividend over the last 5 years. A company, while building its business, will never be able to meet any of these criteria. So you have to have one criteria which is there to build a good dividend yield, and one which is looking at growth, which 10 years later could look very smart. 10 years later I could look very smart with Indigo and Zomato, or I could look completely stupid halfway and come out of those shares. So all those things will happen, but here we are not talking of looking at growth companies. So therefore dividend, increasing dividend, sustainable dividend, the decent dividend yield. Once you have all this, there is no reason why you should not be buying it. For example, my Coal India purchase would be from 118, 119 till maybe 210. Right, so decent dividend yield, growth. Yes, it's a commodity, but chances are I'll make money in a commodity. It can now be said, but when I was buying Coromandel International 1986, 1986, 87, it was Rakesh Jhunjhunwala who said, "Arey, commodity company, boring company, government interference, very unlikely that you will make money." But over the period of years, which is what 35, 36 years, I've made decent money in Coromandel. I bought, I've sold, I've kept, I've taken the splits, I've taken the bonus, I've taken they did some buyback, they've done mergers. So I benefited by all, right? So the question is what you want to do. It's not a question of whether who is telling you what. So you built your universe, you've built your criteria, now you can start investing. It's a slightly lengthy process, and therefore I'm taking time doing it, but then I will talk about what other criteria, return on net worth, return on capital employed. You need to definitely look at this. But when you are saying a company is paying dividend and increasing market share, then I think ROC, RONW are all taken care of normally. But sometimes the growth can be way beyond what you think you can handle. So be careful. So, welcome to Subramani, but continuing the equity selection criteria, also look for a reasonable moat. These days, moats are not are not going to be sustained for too long. I'm even worried about moat of FMCG companies, because if new companies are there, I mean, a kid can go and experiment and say, I'm sick of using this Colgate toothpaste, let me try something else. Perfectly possible. And then they go somewhere and they buy. And today, if I want to buy anything, I do it online. I look at what is available online. I may still go to a shop and buy, but I will definitely look at it online. So some of the modes may go, because people would be indifferent to what they are buying. They're just buying sugar, so they may not mind buying. They may mind buying branded sugar. They may not mind buying branded sugar, depending on the comfort you have with the shop, not exactly with the product, right? So depending on all that, the brand loyalties, will people stick to the same toothpaste, toothbrush, airline? We do not know. Right now it's good time for Indigo, so that's a different thing, but normally you will have some competition coming, right? It's great to be in a business where your only competitor are the Tatas. That's exactly the position in which Indigo is in currently. So some of these advantages could be there, but I did not know that there would be a stage sorry, when the competition for Indigo will be less. I only thought that competition for Indigo will keep increasing, right? So some of these lucky breaks will happen. So moat, sustainable growth. If you don't understand the technology, it doesn't matter. I don't understand the technology of a Zomato, but I know what business they are doing. You have to understand the business, not the technology. I don't care a damn what, sorry to use that language, what TCS does and what Infosys does. I know who are the clients. I know why they are with them. I know why a JP Morgan would never be able to throw a TCS out. They've just got enmeshed into them. So they know how many of their old software works, how is the marriage between old and new software. So to me, that is important. The relationships are important. The fact that they're making money is important. It's not important as to what they're doing. What TCS does for JP Morgan, I do not know. But I know that X number of people are working for JP Morgan on behalf of TCS, right? Or rather working in JP Morgan on behalf of TCS. TCS has got a contract. The TCS is supplying manpower, maintenance, or creating software, etc. for JP Morgan. So some of these broad things is what you will be able to understand. So put your criteria, put your ROC, RONW, market share, all that. When you keep seeing that ROC and RONW are improving and the market share is improving, you know you have a winner. You can go and increase its weightage. Thank you.